This is It's Not What You Say: How to Sell Your Message When It Matters Most by Michael Parker. To Eliza. We will be going over pages 1 through 22, Principles. Principles. Those are my principles, and if you don't like them, well, I have others. Groucho Marx. It's not what you say. When faced with the spotlight, most of us tend to focus on the content, the what we say, at the expense of the delivery, the way we say it. This is a difference between mediocre speakers and great ones. The impact of your words on an audience comes mainly from your tone of voice and body language. Although this cannot be measured precisely, a fascinating study carried out in the United States by the National Security Agency demonstrated the importance of delivery. 3 research groups were asked to judge if suspects were telling the truth in 300 criminal cases and that had known outcomes. One group only listened to the interviews, and 55% were right. Another group saw them but without any sound, and 65% were right, while those who saw and heard them scored 85%. Martin Luther King Jr.'s speeches were eloquent enough in their written form, but inspiration leaps when we hear his performance of his famous "I Have a Dream" speech. The words become spine-tingling. I would not hesitate to assert that a mediocre speech supported by all the power of delivery will be more impressive than the best speech unaccompanied by such power. Quintilian, Institutes of Oratory. People by people. Whether you are interviewing, auditioning, or making a speech, there is one thing performances have in common. You are being judged. It might be by an audience, by a panel, or in some ways, more scarcely, by your own friends and colleagues. When preparing for the big moment, you are likely to put everything into crafting your speech, polishing your resume, and practicing your technique, but you might well forget the essential rule learned by the early traveling salesmen. They knew that before they could sell their encyclopedias, they had to sell themselves. Character may also be called the most effective means of persuasion. Aristotle. If they don't like you, they won't buy you. An obvious statement, but often overlooked. Your qualifications may be exceptional, or your cause undeniably deserving, but if they don't like you, they won't buy you. Fortunately, most of us, most of the time, are likable when among friends and when things are going well. We are less likable when we feel stressed or uncertain, feelings that are heightened whenever we are in the spotlight. You can counter this and keep your natural likability by being prepared and rehearsed. Rehearsal makes people nicer. Nelson Mandela cultivated his likable image through every aspect of his appearance, not least his beatific smile. People act on emotion, then justify with reason. The human mind is often thought of as divided into 2 parts, emotional and rational. We understand the active power of emotion, how we often react from fear, act out of love or greed, or do things against our better judgment. We understand this, and yet, when faced with an audience, we tend to focus our minds, not our hearts, on persuasion that assumes a rational response. We hone arguments, revise scripts, and fine-tune to the last minute. Emotion gets sidelined. We ignore the advice of the legendary Dale Carnegie, who told us in his seminal book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. When dealing with people, let us remember we are not dealing with creatures of logic. We are dealing with creatures of emotion, creatures bristly with prejudices and motivated by pride and vanity. We forget that emotion leads to action, whereas reason just leads to conclusion. We forget about feelings. I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. Maya Angelou. Passion persuades. One definition of passion is an intense and compelling emotion. If you are genuinely passionate about your subject, you are already halfway to being able to persuade. Passion is infectious, so let it out. Don't hold back. With it, you can be unstoppable. However, there will be inevitably occasions where you do not feel passion, in which case, don't claim it. This will seem false. When passion is not a reality, enthusiasm, interest, and eagerness are all powerful motivations for you and for your audience, so work on them. But if you can, find passion. Probably my worst quality is that I get very passionate about what I think is right. Hillary Clinton. Hunger is the best sauce. Choosing from similarly excellent, deserving candidates or pitches isn't easy. The proposals may be compelling and the arguments may be persuasive, but the real decision will usually come down to the judge's sense of who is the hungriest. Hunger is not something you proclaim. You ooze it by being hell-bent, doing more, asking more, leaving no proverbial stone unturned. A world-famous actress was hungry when pitching her first film, Unbroken. This has been the hardest thing I've ever done. I had all these hours of phone calls and things and made all these boards. I took my glue and tape and pictures off the internet. I put all my boards in a garbage bag and carried them to the Universal Studio, to Universal myself, and put them out. And I pitched my butt off. Angelina Jolie. If you don't lead, no one will follow. Every pitch is a battle. A battle against time, against rivals. And every pitch takes energy, preparation, and performance. Clear-cut victories are rare, often the winning difference, as on a real field of battle is leadership. On your own or heading a team, take charge. Be bold, be inspirational, be courageous. When placed in command, take charge. General Stormin Norman Schwarzkopf. Make the audience your friend. The audience is not your enemy. When you're in the spotlight, particularly for the first time, it is easy to think your audience is against you, a disembodied group just waiting for you to slip up. This is not the case. They are not there under sufferance. Generally, they are there because they want to be there. They are looking forward to meeting you and being a part of an engaging experience. It is not you against them. They bring interest and energy for you to tap into, sharing the moment with you. Even though you're the one talking, think of your presentation as the beginning of a lively conversation among friends. Do I not destroy my enemies when I make them my friends? Abraham Lincoln. It's all about the emotional connection. Your proposal was bulletproof. Your interview was flawless. Your lecture was illuminating. Your speech was profound. But did you make an emotional connection? The 5 canons of rhetoric. Rhetoric can be defined as the art of persuasion, influencing with words rather than force. Arguably, the greatest masters of this art were ancient writers Aristotle, Cicero, and Quintilian, and it was Quintilian, the Roman rectorant from Spain, who said, "The whole art of oratory, as the most and greatest writers have taught, consists of 5 parts: invention, arrangement, style, memory, and delivery. Each of these elements is as valuable today in creative effective communication as when it was taught over 2,000 years ago."